Today is March 13th, 2022. My name is Charles Suter. Today I'm presenting a topic called prison reform. My main message, and this by ex-Governor Arnold Schwarzenegger, corrections should correct. Long-term incarceration is not the best answer to preventing, deterring, or punishing crime. In fact, most people who are imprisoned without treatment or remediation, stuck in a cell just doing their time, end up committing more crimes because they become hardened, antisocial people who are unable to get a decent job and reintegrate back into society. The rate of recidivism is a reflection of the failure of the criminal justice system. A better process is needed for saving people on the fringes of society, mentally inclined to resort to crime to meet their unmet needs. Proposition 1. Here are some remedies. Early intervention to prevent and remediate antisocial behavior. This would include instituting new social education programs for developing better citizens. Fund social services for early intervention help for troubled people, no matter what their age. Training parents to become better parents. Prevention of crime is far more effective than the cure, and a prison sentence that offers hope for remediation is better than a harsh one. Most people who commit crimes do so out of economic desperation and mental health problems. If these problems could be identified early with appropriate interventions, society would end up with better, more productive citizens, and most importantly, less crime. Children could be placed on the right path to becoming good citizens by training and financially supporting parents so they give their children a better childhood, one with a good education without severe economic deprivations. Far too many parents are children themselves without the financial and educational training needed to be a parent. As children grow, they need guidance and oversight by school counselors and social welfare workers to ensure they are developing healthy social values. Proposition 2. An emphasis on rehabilitation during incarceration. This would include flexible sentencing options aimed at rehabilitation and restorative justice. Would include development of fast-track rehabilitation programs to earn early release. Would also include social services for mental health, addiction recovery, and job training. The criminal justice system relies far too heavily on long prison sentences as punishment, deterrence for future crimes, and social protection from criminally inclined individuals. But for petty criminals, better alternatives than long incarcerations are needed to restore and integrate them back into society and away from a lifestyle leading to bigger crimes. Alternatives to prison are needed to rehabilitate people on the edge of a criminal career before they begin. Mental health intervention programs are needed to help those undergoing mental health crises. Boot camps are needed for petty crimes, focused on intense socialization and treatment of antisocial behaviors. Those who graduate would have their convictions commuted to probation. Those who do not graduate or cooperate would either repeat boot camp or serve their time in a longer-term rehabilitation program. While in prison, the inmates would be incentivized to meet rehabilitation standards as a condition for early release. Incentives are needed to motivate prisoners to take personal responsibility to determine the amount of time they want to spend behind bars. Support of prisoners' rehabilitation efforts, education programs, job training, mental health services need to be enhanced and promoted. Proposition 3. There will come a time when prisoners will be released and re-enter back into society. We want to make that transition smooth and successful. That would include programs to earn Certificate of Rehabilitation with a clean record. This will help them get jobs when they get out. Closely monitored probation is part of rehabilitation. Advanced assistance in job skills training and job placement. A rehabilitated prisoner's release back into society should be phased, planned, gradual, and progressive, closely monitored by parole or probation officers who actively guide and directs the life of a rehabilitated person to ensure a successful transition back into society, including job placement, performance behavioral evaluations, peer counseling, and additional mental health services as needed. Ideally, a requirement for early release from prison would include the prisoner earning the right for early release by completing a Certificate of Rehabilitation program, giving them a clean record and a better chance at getting a job. Housing assistance might be needed until the released prisoner gets back on his feet financially. My main message is that we want to provide help for hurt people who would otherwise continue to hurt other people. New prison reform programs require more funding, but ideally the funding will come from the reduction in the prison population, fewer cases prosecuted through the courts, smaller police force, and most importantly, less crime. The cost of early preventions and prison reform would rely on existing and supplemented social institutions already funded, such as schools, courts, and beefed up social service programs. Extra funding needed for these new programs would come from the cost reductions due to less crime. The goal of prison reform is to assist people in becoming productive citizens who are mentally stable, socially adept, productively employed, and financially independent. That's all for now. Remember to stay positive, you'll be happier, healthier, and live longer.